So just wanted to post a quick video here of week one overview that I have for you guys, which actually is the week one guidance. And before I do that, I just want to point out a couple things to make sure that we are all on track this week. So, as you already know from the welcome video, when you first come into class, this is going to be the home screen. Click on that modules link and go down and click on, there we go, week one, and you go and right there it shows you everything that is due for the week. But if you go to the week one overview, it gives you all that listed right there. There's a video for you to watch, and then just the learning outcomes and just a little introduction. So make sure you go through, read all of that. We have our quiz due at the end of the week. The weeks run from Tuesday to Monday. So Tuesday is always the first day of the week. Monday is always the last day of the week. You always have till Mondays to get in your quizzes for the week and to wrap up your participation for the discussions. Just remember that you only have till Sunday to get that initial post in, and you want to have one initial post answering all parts of the discussion question. And then you want to have 3 participation posts. So this week we have our introduction posts. Make sure you go and get those in. And then we also have our week one discussion, which is a work from one of the Greek philosophers, Plato. And it is called Glaucon and the Ring of, I think it's Gyrus is how you say it. But it's kind of a daunting little read, but basically the whole point of it is just talking about ultimately what makes us human. What is innately our nature? Are we really good by nature, or are we really bad by nature? And when it comes down to defining, those concepts of good or bad, which Plato uses as just and unjust, that's just really what we're looking at. How do we define those? How do we know if our behaviors are good or bad? What's the context of that? And the way that Plato sets it up is he sets it up to where it's like a shepherd talking to these people, discussing human nature. And he's asking them if they had like this ring of power that could give them any superhuman power they wanted, what would they do with it? And so it's looking at, a good, just person would use that ring for good. They wouldn't do anything kind of in the dark that they wouldn't do in front of people, if you guys know what I mean, and to whereas the unjust person is going to be the one to probably do the nefarious thing, especially if somebody is not looking. So just a little nutshell overview there of Plato. If you have any trouble with any of the readings, materials, videos, anything in class, you guys just reach out to me. Most importantly, we have our first assignment due this week. The way this class is set up is we have 3 assignments, that third assignment being the final paper. And so our week 1 assignment, and I believe week 2 is the second assignment in this class. It's kind of a scaffolding thing we do, to where, we're breaking up that final research paper so we're not overwhelmed at the end of class trying to do everything at once. We kind of break it up. So with this first assignment, we're just getting our rough question out there and getting that rough idea of what we want to do our research on. And then so you're just going to type up a little outline. And if you go and click on all these links here in the week 1 assignment description, it will pull up these little Word files. And what I would suggest doing is to open these, and then it's pretty much a template. All you have to do is open it and then just go and write your information in there. Do note that it has this italicized. Don't italicize it when you type your answers in and send it to me. Hit Control-I. There it goes. Well, you see how I just did that? If you hit Control and the I button at the same time, it will take that italicized off, or you just go up here and hit it and it will take that off. So just remember to do that. And like I said, just a basic little outline for right now. Some of the discussions that we are going to have in class starting next week are going to kind of focus on our research paper or research topics and papers, and kind of putting them in the context of current events, because I think that this idea of scaffolding these big research projects, so that we are kind of working on them each week throughout class. It's really a good way for you guys to get a lot of feedback from me, and then by us having some of the discussions based on our research, it's really a good way to get that peer review type feedback, because I'll tell you guys, you'll probably be more encouraged and learn about the direction of your research by just engaging with each other. I'm not going to say more so than you would with me, but I'm just saying it's a nice, healthy balance there that just gives you those different perspectives on how to look at the topic you're researching. And that's really how you want to approach your research, how you want to approach this class, just kind of how you want to approach anything in life. Is, you want to be open to all those points of view, because ultimately, when it comes to research and papers, and the more open you are, the more knowledge, research you do about your topic, that, it gets easier for you to then narrow that topic down to something that is really specific, so that, you have a strong thesis that you argue throughout your paper, and you have just a really good, solid research paper. But the key to that is kind of researching, writing, editing, researching more, writing more. It's kind of a continuous process. And so, like I said, that's why I like that we kind of work on that throughout class, because it's a good way, to keep it fresh, and then, like I said, just to, get more feedback, so that final paper is just fabulous. And I have no doubt that you guys will all do fabulous on those anyway. Alright, so basically with this first overview, I don't want to do it on that screen. Sorry guys, hopefully this is big enough for you can see it. It's a little difficult for me to see with my little picture there in the way. So, alright guys, so basically with this first guidance, I just want to talk a little bit about kind of the basic foundations of philosophy. And I'm not the type of instructor that likes to give lectures and just kind of regurgitate the course material and the textbook material. I like to kind of give us some different ideas and content to think about that are parts of philosophy, but I like to, give us more information, because it goes back to what I just said about the research paper. The more we can broaden our perspective and see all those different sides, and critically think about how, these course subjects apply to our life and our career fields. It just, one, it makes the information more easy to ingest, more fun to ingest, and then that is something that helps open you up to be able to really develop your critical and creative skills, so that they're much stronger. And then that in turn, affects how you think, it affects how you behave, and it affects how you engage others. And that's something we can always do with compassion, respect, and understanding, and be that positive agent of social change. Philosophy helps us with that, because philosophy, like I said, it's really about being human and all the different things that make us human. So it really is about developing our critical skills, so that we have that basic foundation and that better foundation of just what it means to live in this life, and maybe gain a little understanding of just ourselves and of others. And like I said, so we can, set that positive precedence. Alright, so that's kind of in a nutshell what was on that slide there. So basically, philosophy is the science of asking questions. Questions are, it's part of human growth and evolution. It's kind of technology, innovation. We're naturally curious creatures. And, we all have those big questions of, who am I? Where did I come from? How do we know what we learn? How do we know what we know? What do we believe? Where are we going? What does it mean to be human? All just those big kind of existential life questions that we just all, even outside of philosophy, kind of naturally ponder over. And so a way that we can satisfy our curiosity, we satisfy kind of our lust for life. I guess that's a good way, or how we satisfy our need to learn and to grow, because that's a big part of being human. Like I said, that innovation, technology, it all comes down to our creative and critical skills and asking questions. As humans, we are problem-solving creatures, and that's one of the ways that we are able to grow and evolve and have the innovation and the technology that we have. Everything has to be thought of before it can ever be made manifested into this world. And so in many ways, philosophy helps us to figure out the correct way to go about asking questions, and really just the correct kind of questions to ask, so that we're constantly examining ourselves and just finding the way to our higher selves, essentially. And of course, that just helps us learn more about what it means to be human and just the human experience. And even with the same belief systems, growing up in the same type of cultures, having the same traditions, we're still all individuals, and we all have different experiences of the world. And our upbringing, our cultural values, our belief systems, those all play a role in how we're human and how we engage others. And that's why that these ideas of compassion, respect, and understanding are really important, because just as we want people to respect us and at least listen to what it is we have to say, we have to turn around and grant that same respect to others. And even if we disagree with others, there's a way that we can disagree and it not get into that knock down, drag out debate. There's a way that we can actually learn to disagree and actually learn something from that experience, okay? Alright, so basically when it comes down to it, philosophy has three key principles that form its foundation, and those are going to be epistemology, ethics, and belief systems. And belief systems, I say belief systems, but belief systems are also our religions. But lots of different cultures in the world, and the way that we go about defining what their religions are, not quite in the same context as, say, like organized religions like Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism. There are different factors going on. But, so we can't say that everybody has religion necessarily, but we can say that everybody has belief systems, and those belief systems are very crucial in shaping how we interact with each other. So, our epistemology, our ethics, our belief systems, they really are based on our social engagement, because we don't exist in isolation. And as humans, we are social creatures that want to and need to get along with each other in order, just to make life better for ourselves and for everybody else. So epistemology is basically, it's our quest for knowledge and how we justify knowing what we know. And because, we're all individually unique, and we're all culturally unique, we know that, justifying what we know is going to differ, based on those cultural perspectives. So, in the Western world, like in our society, we kind of base what we know. Our epistemology is really based on science and the scientific method. But say if we were to go and look across the globe at maybe other cultures, say maybe tribal cultures, chiefdom cultures, if we were to go look into the past, say look at the prehistoric Southeastern Indians, they don't have Western science. So the way that they go about justifying how they knew what they knew, a lot of it was just kind of based on these signs and symbols they find from nature, and then a lot of it had to do with myths, because once again, myths are kind of a part of our belief system. There's something about, myths, they transmit cultural knowledge, and, they help us, once again, focus on how to be in this world and how to get along with each other. And that, in turn, relates back to, just how we know what we know. All right, and so the way that we go about acquiring knowledge is, through our conscious and unconscious experiences. And psychologist William James, from back in the 1800s, he's actually the father of American psychology and a big proponent of functionalism. He described consciousness as a stream, and that's really one of the main contributions he made to psychology, or at least he made a lot of contributions, but this one is really fundamental. And so basically our consciousness, those pictures, those voices, all that stuff that goes on inside our head and our brains, these are our thoughts, our emotions, our perceptions. It's like this river, so they're all just kind of floating around and floating down, and sometimes they'll swirl back around, sometimes maybe they drop off like in a waterfall. But the fact is that consciousness is not kind of a dead thing. It's a very active, dynamic thing, because we're always conscious, even when we're asleep. There's some amount of consciousness going on there, but that's more a psychology class, so we won't get too deep into that. And so interestingly enough, we view conscious as kind of being independent of cognitive thought, and there are some people who believe, William James being one of them, that consciousness existed in the universe, it existed in nature. We'll get into a little bit of that, I think, this first week, because the whole just nature versus nurture debate really plays a role in just looking at human behavior and these ideas of good and bad too. So there are some scientists that believe that consciousness is fundamental aspect of the universe, kind of like gravity and matter, and interesting ideas there. But anyway, so we know that consciousness exists, and we know that we also have these things called cognitive thoughts. That's our mental ability, our mental astuteness, you could say, and they seem to be connected, yet at the same time they're kind of independent of each other. And that's important to know, because the way we go about gathering epistemology is through our conscious and unconscious experiences of the world. And for most of us, especially in Western society, we have been taught the old, kind of based on the old ancient Greek ideology of kind of I think Aristotle is the one who came up with this, that, consciousness only exists as far as we can sense it. So basically it's just based on the five senses. It's what you can see, what you can touch, what you can taste, what you can smell, and what you can hear. And we know that, yes, all of those senses do make up a part of reality, but what we have to understand is that it's really just one side of consciousness in reality. There's kind of a myriad of different ways to look at it, and that's not too woo-woo out there psychologically. Just think of it, bring it down and think of it in this practical consciousness. Your experiences of, say, going out in nature are different than your experiences of, say, going into society. Those are different types of reality, different types of consciousness. Even when you go into society, you're kind of different depending on what you are doing out in society. Psychologist Carl Jung would say it's kind of our persona, or it's kind of these archetypes, these roles that we play. So, for instance, when you go to work, you're kind of in your job role, and so you act according to that, and so that's one way. And when you're in that job role, you have one way of kind of viewing consciousness and viewing reality. And then say you go home and you're with your mate, your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you're kind of in a different, you kind of have that mate role on, or you have the mother role or the father role. And in all of those different roles, we're experiencing a little bit different perspective of reality. So that's basically what I'm talking about here, and just getting us outside of our comfort zones and outside of our little boxes, little bubbles that we tend to put ourselves in. As human beings, we all always want to be right. That's just kind of something that we all do. As great as it is to be human, there are also some really kind of awful things about being human too. And so, when we can learn to really look at what we think, what we know, how we view the world around us, how we view ourselves, how we view others, it just, it helps us to grow. Alright, so next we have ethics, and ethics are pretty much just how we behave and develop. So we have this whole idea of we have ethics and we have morality. And I would say that morality is kind of more that inner voice, that little, Pinocchio's little Jiminy Cricket. That was his little voice of consciousness. That was kind of his morality. Whereas, so it's this individual thing. Whereas ethics are more something that are social rules that we have to follow. And they both relate because it's based on how we behave and how we develop. It's based on how we treat ourselves, how we treat others, and we have to include other species in that too. And so, when I was working on my master's degree, it was in history, culture, and archaeology, so I was really focusing on the prehistoric southeastern Indians, and that's why you'll see throughout these slides that I kind of just give us some examples, and I use the southeastern Indians as that. And so basically, it doesn't matter how we think of the natural world, how we think of other animals. We're all here together, and in order for us to develop in healthy, positive, and productive ways, we have to really look at how we are treating everything that we share this life with. All right. Oh, let me go back to this. And so, just real quickly here too. So, psychologist Carl Jung, I've already talked about. He came up with the ideas of persona and the psyche, and these ideas of unconsciousness. But he really thought that as much as the social environment played a role in our development, and he just thought that the natural environment did that too. And it's because of these ideas of consciousness and unconsciousness being kind of universal. Because we just kind of naturally get these symbols and signs that kind of direct us on how to live in life there. And so we see that our unconscious is a really big part of nature there, and that whole human nature connection is a big part of how we develop, how we grow, how we learn, and that is something that we have kind of lost connection with in Western society. But I do think we are, and because of that, we have many mental diseases, afflictions. We see a rise in addictions, mental disorders, maybe even all these mass shootings. It's kind of a sign that there's some neuroses in our society, and people are suffering from that. And so, philosophy just helps us, to learn how to just get in and understand those kind of things. Alright, and then like I just say here, so, talking about how ethics relates to our morals, and just that whole idea about how, humans can be either good or bad, and we're a little bit of both, I would say. And when it comes down to it, so philosophy just helps us, kind of understand those full complexities of human nature. And so when it comes to how we justify what we know, our epistemology, when it comes down to our ethics, how we treat others, how we ultimately really believe deep down in our brains and in our hearts, our morals there, we have to look at the role that our belief systems play too, because they're really that foundation for how we engage and treat each other. Our belief systems, they provide us with ways to view the world, and they also give us a foundation of ethics and morals, as well as a way for helping us understand some of the things that we know about life. And so very interestingly, like I said, so not all cultures are religious per se, but they all do have belief systems. So it's kind of interesting to think about these ideas of what is religion, what is belief systems, what is spirituality, and how does that all relate to ethics and morals. So I would ask you guys to consider, can one be moral, ethical, and not be religious? And then think of the other side of that too. Can somebody seem to be very religious but not very moral or ethical? So, interesting little points to think about. I do think that we will discuss that in one of our discussions throughout class. And so what I just have here real quickly is just, these ideas of self-actualization. It's just this idea of how we learn and grow and reach those higher stages of self and higher stages of consciousness. And that just helps us to be that more mindful, positive, productive individual. And so once again, these three key principles of philosophy just help lay the foundation for us to be able to develop in those healthy, positive, and productive ways. And in our journeys through life, they are not easy. Life challenges us, and I think that's a good thing too. If we just sat around life and got everything we wanted all the time, then we never would learn or grow. So so life has to challenge us at times. That's how we develop our critical and our creative skills. It's just thinking, experiencing, and just living life. And then last but not least, so in thinking about our belief systems, how we believe, how we engage, and how we engage others and kind of view life, we also have to think about science too, because the science part of it is kind of the society part of it. No matter what culture you're from, no matter what time in history or prehistory you would or have or whatever lived, societies are always set up, they want members of their society, they want those members to collectively get along, because that's how you get a society to function. And when you can have everybody getting along in positive, productive ways, then you have, a kind of optimally functioning society. And so part of what we know is based on, things like our belief systems, things like, the natural intelligence that exists in the universe and in the nature that we kind of unconsciously pick up on. And then, a lot of it has to do with how we are socially ingrained to behave. That's a key part of the nature versus nurture debate. It's like, does being human mean that we are more, does what makes us human, is it more this natural thing, so we're kind of born the way we are, and regardless of our experiences in society, we're kind of our personalities, our temperaments, everything is set? Or is it that maybe we have some semblance of these when we're born, but society kind of shapes those? So interesting stuff there. Alright, so key factors in studying psychology there is that we want to keep our hearts and minds open to our differences. Once again, we're all unique individuals with special gifts to contribute to a society, and it's okay that we don't all think alike. That's the great thing about human beings, because we wouldn't have advanced as far as we have in society or just in history, human history, without those differences. Diversity is, diversity really is the mother of invention there. And then just real quickly to point out again, so when we're thinking about our diversity, we're thinking about epistemology, ethics, belief systems. We want to, have those, we always want to keep that open mind of compassion, respect, and understanding. I really like my little definition here. Not really definition, I paraphrased it, but Dalai Lama, he says that compassion is respect and understanding. And I really do like that, because I think he's right. I think, in order to have compassion for others, you have to have a little bit of respect and understanding for their position in life and their ideas and others. And so, it just really comes down to caring. And that's ultimately why we learn and grow in life, because, like I said, as humans, we're social creatures. We care. We care about ourselves. We care about others. We're working on our education because we want to help better our lives and better our families' lives. So, that is caring. And philosophy just helps us, learn how to do all of these in a little, we'll say more positive and productive and healthy ways. And it just helps us find more of our human potential. So in wrapping up, we see that when we study philosophy, it is actually a contemplative process that involves listening or hearing, contemplating, and integrating. There's a great little quote that says that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we listen more and speak less. And that's really a key part of engaging others too, is that we tend to not really listen or hear what somebody is saying. The minute somebody says something, our brains kind of hop off when we start thinking about what we're going to say, or maybe they say something and it's something that irks us the wrong way, and so we're automatically, the temperatures, busting the little bubble gauge there, and we're mad and seeing red, and so we're not actually hearing or listening to what that other person is trying to say. So it's always a good idea to kind of, step back, take that deep breath, take a little bit of time to reflect on what it is we're hearing, what it is we're reading, what it is we're learning. And, it's just a way for us to, just like I said, to reflect on it so we gain a little more understanding of it and how it applies to our life. So after we've done that, that is kind of that reflection, is that second part, that contemplating it there. And then the third part there, so after we've listened, after we've thought about it, then we can move on to that integration. So we can look at, how does this information apply to our life? And I really like that about this philosophy class, because I feel like in a lot of our discussions, we really, and then with your guys' personal research papers, we really get to see, how philosophy really influences our everyday life, and in many ways that we might not be consciously aware of. And so, in wrapping up, there are many different ways to be human, and philosophy just helps us gain that deeper understanding of all those questions involved with the human experience. Last but not least, guys, I've got my reference slide here. If you notice, as I went through, if you didn't, quickly, scroll back through the video and just note where I have in-text citations there, and, kind of use you can use these as a, kind of examples for how you want to set up your in-text citations and references in your discussions and in your research. Number one basic rule of academic writing is that everything that you say has to be proven. We're not basing anything on our opinions in this class. It's all got to be based on academic, scholarly, substantiated facts. And so it's really important that you make sure that whatever you're writing, your discussions or your assignments in class, that you follow that rule of explaining something, support it with an example, explain that example, and then tie it all back to what that main point of either that post or your paper is. Alright guys, so that wraps up our guidance for this week. I'm just an email, phone call, online office visit. If you want to set one of those up away, guys, continue striving for excellence. If you need any help with anything in class, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, and I will EC you guys in our discussions this week. Thanks guys, bye.